All right, today we're going to go over hyperangulated video laryngoscopy in detail. We first want to show these blades. The video laryngoscope blades have two main groups. There are hyperangulated blades and standard geometry blades, which take the shape of a traditional Macintosh. In the hyperangulated group, two of these examples are disposable, made by GlideScope. There's a size 3 and a size 4 hyperangulated. Not a lot of evidence here, but I prefer in most adults to start with a size 3. When you're going to use a GlideScope blade, you're near the tower. GlideScopes have a magnetic connection between the disposable blade and the monitor. And those fit together pretty well and can come out and together without much trouble. The third example of a hyperangulated blade you can see has the same blade shape meant to get around the base of the tongue without moving tissue. This is made by Karl Storz. This is the CMAC D blade. The example we have here, the blade itself, clear plastic, is actually disposable, but it includes a reusable light and wand here. And so to use this disposable blade, you need to connect these two things. They snap together. And then when you're ready to use it, as we know, the Storz products have a pin system to connect. And so you're gonna insert that into the D blade and then do that pop or click to get it to stay in place. And then you've got a D blade hyperangulated video laryngoscope ready to use.
Okay, so best practice for hyperangulated blade, you're gonna have a nice light grip. You're gonna watch the blade go in the center of the mouth, and then you're gonna transition to looking at the monitor. You're gonna walk down the middle of the tongue until you find the epiglottis. Get a view that is a little bit further back than you might think is best. Something like this, a more panoramic view. Grab your tube and a rigid stylet in the tube. It's important to shape it. Put it in the mouth of the corner. Advance it into the airway. And once it's in the airway, you have to push the stylet out a little bit before you can advance a little bit more. Now your assistant's gonna take that stylet, pull it towards the belly button, and you are done. Now let's talk about some finer points for hyperangulated. So one important point is watching the blade go in until you really can't see where it is. You don't want to put it into a tonsil or into the palate. There's been injuries reported. So you really got to watch it go in the midline, not to the side, but in the midline. That's important. If you can't get it in because there's a big chest, you can rotate it and put it in this way if you need to. Once it's there, the next biggest hang up I see is people love to get a really good view. So they get this view, which is beautiful. You can actually see down almost to the carina here, but you put it in and now you're so close, it's actually a little bit harder to pass the tube because it's more anterior, it's further up in your screen. So actually, the best practice is to be further away and give yourself more room. Even this view, like a limited view, it might look harder, but it's actually easier to put the tube in. So further view. The next mistake I make, or I see people do, is just putting the tube in while looking at the screen. They're like, hitting the cheek, going to a tonsil, who knows where the tube is going. So again, watch the tube go in, and so you know where it's going. Once you see it on the video screen, you can go back and put it in. That's extremely important to avoid injury. And you can't keep advancing this because you're gonna then rotate in and injure the trachea, so you have to take this stylet out. Another big mistake I see is people just try to pull the stylet straight out this way. Try to do that, and it's just gonna pull the tube out with it. So you need to actually pull towards the belly button to have it come out. So again, direct vision, insert it, put it into the airway, to your depth, pop that a little bit, advance just a little bit more. Stylet goes to the belly button to match the curve. And those are the biggest points for hyperangulated. These same points apply to the D blade. You do need this rigid stylet to match the shape of this curve.
I think the big thing is this is video only. You cannot do direct laryngoscopy with this blade. The angle is just too steep.
Mm-hmm. So you put the blade in and you got nothing. You can't see in there. So you have to use the screen. So be mindful of fluids, be really careful when you're dealing with fluids. Okay, so a question that comes up a lot is, I don't want to use a rigid stylet. I'm used to the Bougie. Can I use a Bougie with hyperangulated? And I would say you should not. Best practice, can or should I use a Bougie with hyperangulated? The short answer is, I don't think you should. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So can you? Maybe, you could get away with it, but it's not best practice because this curve is really sharp and a lot of Bougies can't maintain their curve long enough to go around the glide scope like that. I'll show you here. So glide scope goes in, you get your view, a nice panoramic view, you get the Bougie, and you know, it's got a decent curve here, but it's not maintaining the curve that matches the blade. And as we come, it gets close, but doesn't go in. Could we put a bigger curve in and get it in there before, you know, it unbends? Probably. It's possible. So is it impossible? No. Is it harder? Yes. There are other Bougies here that maybe make it easier. This is a flex tip Bougie that actually the tip flexes up and down. So you get your view and you'll see this on the screen. You can actually flex the tip up and down. So in this case, it's pretty straightforward. There is some evidence that works. So if you happen to have one of these, it's probably okay because you can flex it up to get in and then down to go to the trachea, and that's easier. But short answer is don't use it unless you're experienced with that technique. Instead, use a rigid stylet that matches the curve of the blade.